Could your company's sales process use a little improving? What's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Masco, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous business. Today we have with us Christian Jack. He has one of the most remarkable transformation stories I've ever encountered. 3 years ago, he was earning $1,200 a month as a teacher. Fast forward to today, and he's collected over $100 million in sales revenue and transformed the lives of thousands of sales professionals around the world. That's why Christian created the Sales Dojo, the only sales training program that combines human behavior, belief systems, and sales tactics through a martial arts inspired belt system. So that is Christian Jack. Welcome, Christian. Thank you so much for being here. What's going on in your world today?
Thanks so much, Paul. I'm really excited. Man, what's going on in my world? Life is good. God is good. And just doing the thing, helping people get better at sales and make more money, have a better life. It's a fun time.
Doing your thing. So let's get into what you were doing before Sales Dojo. Your journey
Ooh.
started, you're a teacher. Give our listeners kind of the backstory of Christian and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I was a teacher. I was working for somebody else. And like I'm sure a lot of people here will probably resonate, like I didn't really enjoy it that much. I just wanted to have more freedom. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to be able to, I was newly married at the time as well. And so this was actually just after COVID kind of happened. And being a music teacher, you can probably imagine, Paul, it's not the most necessary job in the world. It's not the most, what was the word that they used? Was it essential
You weren't an
worker?
essential worker.
Yeah. It's not like necessarily the most essential worker. And so, me being a music teacher, and then also my wife was a music teacher as well. I was like, shit, I don't know if we're gonna have a job if like this sort of thing happens or World War III or whatever. So I just started kind of planning for the future, and I was looking at, what is a skill that is always going to have a job, that will always have security, that people will always need. And I basically came across like marketing and sales. And pretty much every business owner that was successful that I ever talked to always said start with sales, like learn sales, get a sales job over and over and over. Every podcast that I listened to, every video that I watched. And so that's how I came across sales. And so I basically just decided to get into sales. I got into remote sales specifically. And then along the way, I did a bunch of different types of sales and did really well at it. And then now I just help other people with it.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into how you help them, because I
Yeah.
could promise you pretty much everybody listening to this knows their organization could be a little bit better at sales. They have those technicians that could be a
Yeah.
little bit better, or their training's not as dialed in, or their
Yep.
numbers aren't where they need to be. So what is the Sales Dojo, and how do you use martial arts to get these people doing what they need to do?
Oh, man. Well, martial arts is, if you think about it, it's it's the it's a system that's been built up for um, tiered levels of learning for the longest period of time in human history. So, like, martial arts has been something that's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? More than the school systems, more than any other like method of structured learning. It's been around the longest. And so I think with that longevity comes a certain wisdom. So in martial arts, you start off as like a white belt, right? Do you have any sort of background in martial arts, Paul? Or do you know anybody
Both
that's
our
been in
daughters
martial
just
arts?
started Taekwondo like 2 weeks ago, so they got a white belt.
Perfect. So you come in as a white belt and you got to learn the basics, right? It's a lot of grinding. It's like learning the really simple stuff before you can go and learn the fancy stuff. And so then as, your son will learn better stuff, and as he passes his kata, like all his forms and all that sort of stuff, then he slowly gets to level up and learn more advanced things, more dangerous things, etc. And so it's just taking that learning pathway and that kind of system and applying it to sales, right? When you first have somebody join your team, as an example, and they're going and knocking on doors, you're probably not going to teach them the most complicated, advanced stuff that that maybe is more influential, but because it's so complicated, people just won't get it. So you want to start off with the basic stuff, like how to like get somebody to just stay with you at the door for more than 3 seconds without slamming it on your face, right? Or how to get inside, and like once you are inside, how to handle objections if you get them. So that's really all that the Sales Dojo is it's a structured learning pathway. From now, I've coached thousands of sales reps at this point. So I've seen the trends on what should be taught first, what should be taught next, what should be taught next, and what you don't need to learn at first and what you don't need to learn next. That's really all that it is.
Love it. And as you and I know, when you have any sort of belt system or color, it continues to motivate us too, right? Like we want to
Yes.
continue to improve and we
That
know what we need to do to
gamification.
get to the next level and the next level. So that's
Yeah.
super
One of
insightful. So you use science a lot. So let's start getting into like mastering sales and like give our
mm,
listeners some tactical stuff. So first thing you do is you use science a lot
uh-huh.
based on the research I've done.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Why do you do it? How does it help?
Great question. Science is one of those things. I wasn't the best student in school, I'll be honest. And as I was going through school, I had a pretty big aversion to like learning all this stuff. Um, but once I started getting into sales and like taking sales calls, I started to see the importance of it. And so I just want to preface this by saying like anybody who's listening, if you've got some sort of aversion to learning the science behind things, I get it. That was once me. And like I feel you. I get it. But also, I will say I've made exponentially more money since I've learned it. So, that being said, the science of sales and influence is really just the science of human behavior and psychology. If you can just like learn those two things, then you'll be super duper solid. So, a great example of this is when you walk up to somebody's door, as an example, and you're talking to them about you're doing your opener and stuff. You want to leverage body language as much as you can. So this is one of the sciences of human behavior. There's this thing called ventral positioning. It's a big fancy word to say which way is your chest pointed, right? Have you ever, Paul, you've probably experienced this. If you like sit down and you're about to be, I don't know, you're having a hard conversation with like your boss or something, right? I don't know if you ever worked like 9 to 5 or corporate, but like when you sit down with them, it's usually me on this side of the table and you on that side of the table. And it's very much so this like chest against chest, shoulders squared up kind of thing. Whereas maybe you're just like walking down the street with your partner and you are like looking at a house, or you are just like walking down the street with your kid, you're facing the same direction, right? So it's hardwired into us to be either confrontational or facing in the same direction. So when you get somebody to open up their door, maybe you shouldn't just be squared off with them. Maybe you should just like stand with one shoulder out and like looking at something out there. It's like one of those little things. So science, obviously we can go super deep on this, but I don't want to get too much into the weeds. But that's one thing that like you may not necessarily think about if you just are thinking about the words that you're saying. So science goes beyond the words and it gets pretty deep.
Awesome. Well, let's take it another. We won't have to get too far in the weeds. We only got a
Let's
certain
do
amount
it.
of time, and our listeners are busy. But
Yeah.
you had mentioned, influence, persuasion.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we start talking these words into our mind, we start
Uh-huh.
telling ourselves sales is gross. I'm selling these people. They don't need
Yeah.
anything. If they did, they would do this, blah, 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 blah.
hmm
What's your thoughts on like influence, persuasion, and, how do we leverage that to actually serve our customers?
How do we leverage it to serve our customers? I mean, phew. Um, Sales and influence and persuasion is a skill set. And any skill set is, it can be good or bad based off the intention that you have with it, right? You could have the skill set of, um, let's say, like construction as an example, right? Like you can use that for good to build houses. You can use it for bad by just like pointing a staple gun at somebody. Like it seems dumb when you put it in that context, but it's the exact same thing with sales and influence. So like people that I come across that feel like sales is gross or bad or like pushy or whatever, generally it's just because they either A, don't have the right intention for themselves, or B, that might actually come from this deeper seated programming on what you believe sales even is, or maybe the experiences that you've had in the past. Like, I don't know if you're anything like me, you've had bad experiences with salespeople, people who are pushy, people who just go straight to pitching you, who don't even care about like what the fuck you need or what you want or anything like that. They just are they're driven by their own agenda. So the intention behind sales is, I think, what will get rid of that feeling that it's gross or whatever, and recentering on why you're doing it, right? But most people don't even think about that.
Yeah, it's so true. And you had mentioned, depending on how you define sales, and I ask this to like all people in the space that you play in, people that
Yeah.
are sales experts, love coaching other people in sales. How do you define sales? If I had to say define sales,
Mm.
what is it? Just curious.
It's just change. That's really all it is it's things just change. Like that's it. If a sale is to be made, then there's some sort of change in what's happening or their belief system or what they feel like they need versus what they don't need or what they want versus what they don't want, how they want to get it versus other ways. Like it's just some level of change. And then influence, I think, is the thing that enacts the change sometimes. So couple different layers there, but sales is it's just a change in the status quo. I think that's the simplest way to put it.
Interesting. Love it. Never heard that take before. So
Yep.
glad we're having this conversation. You had mentioned body language. You
Hmm.
know, you picked on one thing, right? If you're shoulder to
Yeah.
shoulder, you're side to side. Um, Obviously, another big part of that, call it sales process, is our tonality as well. So not only how are we
Yeah.
carrying our body, but how are we talking? What's your take on tonality? What works? What doesn't work? Let's go.
Oh
Let's go there
man.
for a little bit.
Um, Number one thing that I would say, if you are modifying anything about your communication style or skills, the biggest key to make sure that you do, because otherwise, like you're just going to fall flat on your face and it's not going to work. The foundation of it all is authenticity. So if you are putting on a facade of changing your tonality, then the other person's going to pick up on it. So just want to add that as a caveat before I go into this. The mammalian brain is the part that like picks up on body language, and it's got code that's passed down from generation to generation. So really, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of years of skills of reading body language built into you unconsciously. So it's the reason that we get gut feelings. We don't really know what the gut feeling is, uh, but we just know that it's there. It's like, I got a bad gut feeling about this guy. So anyway, all that to say, tonality, I think it's super huge. I'd say really there's like four main types of tonality, and they're used for different things. They're just used to evoke or change feelings in the other person. So number one is the confident tonality. This is just being very straightforward, very direct. This is how it is, and you're instilling confidence in the other person in whatever it is that you're saying. Then you've got the curious tonality. This is like a little bit more disarming. It's not assumptive. It's a little bit softer, a little more back in the throat, a little bit less energy behind your voice. Um, you've then got the like secret tonality. This is even less energy behind your voice. This is like, Paul, you wouldn't believe what I saw the other day. And it's like it gets somebody to just immediately tune in. They're like, "Ooh, what's this thing? What's he about to share?" And then the last one I would say is the negotiator tonality, or like the reasonable man, if you will. If you want to learn about these, I'll say like fairly. This is not my idea. This is not new. This is Jordan Belfort actually straight line selling talks about these four tonalities, and that's like his system that he came up with. So any like a lot of the things that I teach, I haven't come up with. Like they're not new things. I've just put them all together in one place. So if you want to learn about that, I'd go study Straight Line Selling by Jordan Belfort.
Sweet. We'll definitely mention that as well.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there listening, while you're doing whatever you're doing right now, check that out when you have time to. You had mentioned authenticity and not putting a facade, and I think this is so huge because a lot of times technicians are like, "Well, I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a salesperson," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Well, how are you so good at sales?" And my belief is like, you just got to be you, right? Follow
Yes.
the process that we need to do, but have a conversation, ask questions, be curious, do all these
Yeah.
things, but just be you. How do you help people get over the mindset of, well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm just a technician,
Mm.
no matter what field it is, whether it's
Mm.
home services or not. A lot of times people that are out there doing these things. They're like an expert in the thing, but they don't
Sure.
believe they're an expert at selling the thing. So
Mm.
how do you start getting people's mindset shifted of like, you can do this, you can sell
Oh, man.
if you do X, Y, and Z?
Um, there's a couple of layers to this, and it might get a little trippy, but I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible here. So I'll take you through the exercise, Paul. Number one, what is something that you have put a lot of work into in your life, whether it be like a skill or whatever it might be?
So, I mean, I do fractional CFO work on a daily basis. So I've put a lot
Okay.
of time and effort into analyzing numbers, using numbers to help businesses
Okay.
be more successful.
Perfect. So like super data driven, analyzing numbers, fantastic. Now, that's a skill set that you've gained through lots of hard work and experience and time, etc., right? Everybody has one or five or 10 of those things in their life that they have put a lot of time, effort, and energy into learning as a skill set, right? So now for you, open-ended question here, yes or no. Do you feel like that um, pervades other area of your life? The ability to analyze data.
For sure.
Okay. Would it be crazy to think that, like, that doesn't go into any of like, for me, that sounds absolutely wild. Like, there's no way that that doesn't make its way into other areas of your life because
Right.
it's a big skill that you've learned, that you've gotten success with, and so then therefore your brain is wired that
Yep.
like, "Oh, this brings success. I should do this in other areas of my life to have more success."
Yep.
So it's the same thing here. Now, um, it's a skill set that has now become part of who you are because it's every area of your life is impacted by it. It's the same thing with sales. Like all that it is it's a skill set that becomes part of who you are. And that usually just shifts everything for people that I talk to because they're like, I'm not a salesperson, like sure, whatever, but it's a skill set that you're developing. And at some level, the skill sets that you develop become part of who you are. So therefore, like you are a salesperson. And really the other thing, the other side of this is if you truly believe this, then everything changes. Everything is sales. Like everything is a sales conversation. If sales, just going back to you had a great question earlier. What is sales? If sales is just change, how often do you see change in your life? Is it like
All the time.
once a week, once a month, once every 12 seconds, probably, right? Like life is full of change. It's one of the inevitabilities of life is that things don't stay the same. Things are constantly evolving and changing and growing. And that's the beauty of life. So if that's the case, then literally everything is sales. When you're talking to, your son about going to taekwondo and maybe he doesn't want to that day, right? Like that's sales.
Now
You
we
have
got to
a
sell
certain
them
level
on
of
it.
authority that you might not if you're approaching a stranger's door, but it's still like convincing your son to go to taekwondo, right? Everything. Like whether it's eating broccoli at the dinner table, whether it's getting a raise from your boss, whether it's convincing your team to go out and work more hours that week for the opportunity that's there. There's everything is sales.
That is a fact. I love that. And
So there's really no such thing as a sales professional. It's just like people talking to other people and their skill of influence is there or it's not.
yeah, no, that's 100% true. So this has been super insightful. As we start to wrap this thing up before we get to the finale, one of the questions I like to ask sometimes, depending on the conversation, is what have we missed? What are things that we didn't talk about that you believe? So this is your chance to
Woo!
sell. What do our listeners need to know that I didn't go, a place I didn't go to that they need to be at?
Man, I think hmm, one of the most important things with sales, and might even say aside from your intention and like being an authentic person, just being a human, not being like some weird socially awkward sales robot. Aside from that, the most important thing in sales, the most important skill that you can master is the skill of framing. Framing is being able to take a static topic and make it variable to whatever is needed in the conversation. So as an example, I'm going to take something just super outlandish here. Cryptocurrency is super, what's the word? Volatile, generally, right? Like it goes up, goes down. You never know when one's just going to like disappear off the face of the planet versus another one's going to go up like 40,000% in a day. Like it's ridiculous. Um, you can frame it as volatile in that way, but you can also frame it as the most consistent thing in the history of the world because it's not dependent on one government's currency, right? It's completely separate. So even if, the US economy goes down, crypto is still there. So the art of framing is just taking like one viewpoint, if you will, and being able to shift it. I think that if you master that in sales, you can make a sale happen at any time because it doesn't matter. Like if the person says it's too expensive, you can shift that. If somebody says now is not the right time, you can shift that. If somebody says like this isn't for me, you can shift that. And it's all just that skill of framing and being able to look at it from a different viewpoint. Then now you get opened up to the other steps of like how to solidify that in somebody's brain. That gets really deep. But framing, like if you learn nothing else about sales, just learn framing, and I guarantee you'll make more sales today.
That is, I think we're gonna go a little bit deeper on that because those objections you mentioned happen all the time, right? I gotta talk to my spouse, or oh, that's more than I thought it was, or can you call me tomorrow, or those things happen all the time.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen all the time after that. Like, close the iPad. All right, give us a call if you need anything. Adios.
Classic.
Give us like one example of, let's call it home service sales. You're selling me me an air conditioner. I need a new air conditioner. It's hot. I'm in North Carolina. It's the summer. And I say, oh, that's a little more than I was thinking, that I was going to have to spend today.
Okay.
How do we frame that to kind of shift the perspective?
Okay. So when you say expensive, do you mean the price or the cost?
It's a good question.
Do you know what the difference is?
Yeah, well,
I bet you might, but like a regular old,
so
homeowner
you would say
probably.
that to the homeowner. So homeowner says, no, I don't. No, tell me more, Christian. What's the difference between price and cost?
Well, see, price is what you pay now, but the cost is what you pay for the next 20 years. So I'll just like take a quick little time out here so I can show you this. The price that you pay now is like, what, if you're somebody's doing new AC unit, like what, 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand,
Yep.
depending on what it is, 30 grand. So it might cost like 20 grand. We'll take the middle of the road. But the cost of, just constantly fixing the old AC unit every 3 to 6 months over the next 20 years might be, $500 to $1,000 per time. 20 years, 4 times a year, that's 80 times $500. That's minimum 40 grand. So I would essentially just, if we pause back in or time back in, I would ask the prospect to be like, well, how much does it cost to fix your current AC unit? Like, I know it's now happened a couple of times. That's why you had us here, right? How much does it cost per fix usually?
$1,500.
$1,500. Okay. And how often have you been getting it fixed? How many times?
It's been a couple times now.
Couple times. Over what time period? Has it been like a year? Has it been 2 years?
Yeah, the last 2 summers.
Last 2 summers. Okay. So a couple times, past 2 summers. Is that like 3 times $1,500? It's like what, $4,500 you've spent on fixing it?
Yep.
How many summers is it going to take for that $4,500 to turn into 20 grand or 30 grand or 40 grand?
Yeah. I mean, eventually we can't put any more Band-Aids on it. Then we got to replace it anyway.
Yeah. So the question is like, would you rather pay less or would you rather pay more?
I'd rather pay less.
You sure? Because you could pay more. You could just like keep, fixing it for the next 20 years.
Now let's pay less.
Okay. You sure? Like, I'm not pulling your arm. Okay. There you go.
So is that like part of the timing back out? That's part of the framing then, is like making sure they're okay then with the decision that you just.
Exactly. You're giving them an option to say no. Like, Paul, it's okay if you tell me that you want to pay more. Like, I'm not going to be offended. I'm going to wonder why, but I'm not going to be offended, right? And so when you give somebody the option to say no, then they're less likely to say it, right? If I say like, Paul, you can tell me if I'm crazy. You can tell me if I'm completely off on this, but I have a feeling that you want to pay less.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to say? No. So that's the idea. So that reframe of price versus cost, it's just all that it is it's without going too deep here. So this is where I start to nerd out and I have fun. There are certain truths of life, right? One of the truths is that generally if you take a longer time horizon, like if you look at the long term, the answer becomes super clear. But if you're just so focused in the short term, the answer isn't always as clear. And so if you take a longer viewpoint at things, if the answer becomes clear, then that's something that I can use in the conversation, hence the price versus cost. I'm asking, are you looking at the short term or are you looking at the long term? In the long term, this saves you money. In the short term, yeah, this is fucking expensive. Like,
Yeah.
you're right. But in the long term, it's actually the cheapest option that you have.
Right. Love it. Awesome. No, that was super helpful. And I think our listeners will get a lot out of it, just of, how do we actually start to reframe things,
Yeah.
um, and
It's a
really look at the
wide,
bigger picture. Because
such a
obviously,
wide topic.
yeah, and obviously, like, if we believe and we know that's the right solution for the customer,
Yep.
it's kind of our responsibility to walk them down that path too, as well,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is the best thing.
If you don't,
Otherwise,
somebody else is going to.
somebody else will. And I think the other thing that we didn't hit on, but the other cost is, well, the next time this goes out in July and you don't
Mm-hmm.
have heat for 2 days, I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
air for 2 days and it's super hot in your house, that's
Yeah.
another cost, right?
100%.
Like, are you gonna go to a hotel? Are you gonna be miserable? Are you gonna tell your kids, sorry, we should have got their AC replaced 6 months ago? Like,
Yep.
sometimes it's not even a measurable cost, but there is a cost to it
Yes.
as well. So that
100%.
was super insightful. So as we start to wrap this up, Christian, we want our listeners to take action. We want them to take action immediately. What is one thing they can do within the next 24 hours to move their business, move their sales process just one step forward from where they are today?
It I will give the audience the option to say no here. Like, you can say that this is me selling you something. You can say that this is me marketing my services, but genuinely the reason that I've made this is purely to help people do exactly that, like make more sales in the next day. There is a link that I've made specifically for your people, Paul, because, I think that I have a special affinity for the people that are probably listening today, and I just want to give them something for free instead of even making them pay. Like, usually I'll say I'd make this not free, but um, I don't know. I just feel led to make it free today. So anyway, I would say just go to www.thesalesdojo.co, thesalesdojo.co/blue collar, like one word, blue collar. And on there, I basically have an opt-in to my email newsletter. And this newsletter is unlike anything that you've probably ever seen before. It's completely different in that I actually don't sell anything at all. All that I do is give you one actionable step to make more sales on that day. I only send out like 2 a week. It takes 60 seconds to read. The whole point is just to like give back in a way that it does, again, exactly that. You can just make more sales today, implement the one thing, and you make more money. And that's the whole point of it. No selling, no back end offer, no upsells, no nothing like that.
There you all have it. Thesalesdojo.co/blue collar. Christian, Jack, thanks again for coming to the show, sharing your journey, and providing a ton of actionable advice, wisdom, and strategy for all the blue collar business owners out there as we continue our journey to prosperity. Christian, can't thank you enough. Have an awesome rest of your day. Appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you. See you soon.